the great head coach, City Kickboxing in New Zealand, the one and only Eugene Bareman joins us right now. Coach, thank you so much for the time. Good morning to you. I appreciate you doing this early in New Zealand. Congratulations on the win. You have had a lot of big wins in your career as a coach, as a fighter as well. Is it possible to rank this one, considering what went into it, what happened in November, the history, the two previous fights in kickboxing, everything that went into this one, the doubts surrounding Izzy's future and would he be able to rebound? Everything that went into it. Is it possible to even rank this one for you?
Yeah. Hey, Ariel, how's it going? Thank you for that. Top three. Maybe interchange the big fight in Melbourne when we fought Robert and this moment. And because I've tried to beat this guy 3 times, and arguably, in my opinion, have been on my way to beating this guy 3 times, and we've been pipped at the post every time. To finally get it after winning most of the minutes in most fights is tremendously satisfying for me and my team. And it's right up the area.
How were you feeling? Thursday, Friday. Were you feeling confident? Were you feeling good about where you guys were at?
Yeah, to be honest, we were very confident. Like you got to remember, like in our opinion, we felt we had done a very good job of most of those fights and most of the minutes of those fights, and we had been pipped at the post. And we just knew that we just need to focus. We needed absolute, unadulterated focus for every single second of the time that we're in the ring, and we would come through with victory. And we knew we could get that. We knew that was there, that was available to us. We could get Israel to focus for all 25 minutes. And we were just confident that this would be the one where that would happen. It was a big theme of our camp, if you like.
And could you speak on just how I'm always fascinated about this, and I ask you these questions because you are always so honest, and that's why I love talking to you. Your conversation with Pizzi before the fight was a fascinating look, just days before. So we appreciate that honesty very, very much, and your insight. How would you describe the way Izzy was going into this camp? Because he didn't show us a lot, right? There wasn't a lot of training footage. There wasn't a lot of sound bites. There weren't a lot of interviews. You spoke to us before, the last fight in November, but this time, how would you describe the way he was handling kind of his back being against the wall this time and not being a champion for the first time since 2019?
Very, to be honest, I felt like he really kind of like, he became a real introvert. He really closed everything and a lot of things off from his life, and really doubled down and narrowed down on his focus or vision of what he needed to do in this fight. I think he did that more in this fight, and obviously because of the history, I think he did that more in this fight than any other. Just a very tunnel vision towards his goal of what he needed to do. And what I mean by what he needed to do is the hurdles that he had to get over in the fight, that he knew he would have to get over in the fight.
Did you like that?
Yeah, I loved it. I think, that's something that I'm always trying to get him to do, is just like narrow down his focus, narrow down your focus. The only thing for these 12 weeks that matters in your life is one thing, and nothing else matters. Sorry, but you got to put your family, your girlfriend, your kids, everything's got to be pushed aside. That's our life. That's what we do. Your life might be falling apart. Your father might be sick on their way out. Your dad might be sick on their way out. Whatever. To be honest, it don't matter. To be the best in the world, to fight these guys that can take you out like this, nothing else matters in this world. You need this one narrow focus. And it's something I'm always pushing, and I'm a little bit ruthless about it. But I think he found that best in this fight, and he needed to, because we weren't fighting. We were fighting someone special with a special gift, and he needed that to find that focus. Yeah.
I watched on his YouTube channel. He posted a video yesterday of him rewatching the fight, which is fascinating insight in his own right. And he was talking about the walkout, and I think he was referring to you because he was laughing about something because he was giving everyone high fives and fist bumps and all of that, and he laughed about I think you telling him to calm down. Was that you who said that to him as he was getting checked out? And if so, were you worried that he was too hyped in those moments?
Yeah, I was. That's the honest truth. He did some things in that walkout that were a little bit uncharacteristic. I haven't seen him do. I could see in his face. I could see, the way his face was and some of his mannerisms. I could see the way that he was greeting the crowd, and he even went and saw some of our training partners before he went into the cage. He never does that. There were some things there that I was like, man. And one of my other coaches said, we looked at each other and we were like, oh shit. Are we okay here? So I went up to him, looked him in the eye, and I said, stay calm. And then I think he might have even smiled, because in his head, he still was calm, but he just wanted to do a little bit more. He just wanted to put, there's a little bit extra. He felt he needed a little bit, something different before he hopped in the cage. So once we locked eyes and we had that kind of mutual agreement that he was in the right place, he was in the same place, even though he was exhibiting different behaviors, then we were cool and we moved on. I think that is what he's laughing at.
We also caught on camera, which is a great moment. All this stuff is like gold to me, where you sort of whisper to him as they're doing the announcements. You said, quote, "You're a mastermind. Remember, you're a mastermind." I believe that's what you said. Correct me if you didn't say that to him, but I think that's what we caught on the audio. Can you tell us why you said that in that moment?
Yeah. Okay. So we knew that we had to take more risks in this fight, and all our job, we worked Israel diligently, relentlessly in a particular area of the fight where he was in danger, but we tried to mitigate as much danger. We knew that we were giving Israel more opportunities to take advantage of some of Pereira's flaws. But to do that, we had to put him at more risk than we were usually comfortable with. Okay? Now, in that process, Israel he gets himself excited. He's like, man, this is going to be a great fight because you guys are going to put me in the fire in this fight. And he was saying this, 8 weeks ago. He says, he turns to me, he says, you're going to stress out in this fight because look at the game plan you guys are giving me. You're going to stress out in this fight. And I'm not going to stress out. Why would I stress out? Everything you do is going to be safe. And he gets himself pumped up. And I like to remind him that that's not what we're going after. We're going after cool, calm, and collected. Just because we're putting you in the firing line a little bit more, that doesn't mean we're asking you to let all your animal instincts take over and become, some mindless, crazy fool. You still, even though you're in the heat, you still have to be clear-minded and focused. And that's all that was. It was just to remind them, hey, this is a game of intelligence. This is not a game of you're going to close your fist as hard as you can, bite your mouth guard down and just try and knock this guy out. And I just wanted to just remind him about that. And that's all that comment was about, Ariel.
How did you feel about the first round?
I was happy with the first round. I thought we won the first round, and evidently we did on the scorecards that I checked. He did exactly what we wanted him to do. I was happy. There were some signs. You got to remember, part of our game plan didn't go the way we wanted it to, but if it had gone to a third round, we had some adjustments ready for Israel, and I'm talking about mainly the leg kick. But other than that, I was quite happy with the first round. I thought the first round was a good omen for us, given that I just needed to get Israel comfortable with being in the middle range and give him more opportunities to lead and fight. And I felt that he saw those opportunities and he took advantage of some of them. And although some of his shots came very close to missing, I knew that as the fight progressed, those same shots would get closer and closer and closer, which is where it eventually went.
And just curious, what part of the game plan wasn't working the way you wanted it to work in that early portion?
Well, well, we stood in front of some particular type of weapons. We stood in front of some weapons. We tried to drew out some of Pereira's firepower, and Israel wasn't able to. And again, credit to Pereira, masterful. Israel wasn't able to take the signs, the preemptive movement signs. He was Israel. Pereira hid the signs of him throwing really, really well, and Israel was not able to read it. And although we baited Pereira to throw those shots, Israel wasn't able to get the timing because he wasn't able to read it, because Pereira did really well with his preemptive movement. So that was fine. We had some adjustments for him, like we always do. Had it gone into a third, but at the end of the day, it didn't need to go there, so we didn't need to. Yeah.
So with about 114 left in the second round, we heard you say, quote, he's falling for everything is. And then shortly thereafter, we see what happens up against the cage in the knockout. Could you explain what that means? Like, what do you mean when you say, or when you're seeing that he's falling for everything?
Yeah. So when you want a fighter to lead more, to fire off first, you need the opponent to constantly be thinking that they're ready to fire. Okay, so that it becomes very difficult for you to actually figure out when he's actually going to lead. All I was doing was instilling confidence in Israel that Pereira, there's no idea when you're going to go. That's what that means when I say that. I was like, that means when you're ready to lead, Pereira has no idea you're leading or fainting. He doesn't have a clue. And that was just instilling confidence that Israel can take the lead back, which was a big part of our plan. Pereira does not know the difference between when you're leading and fainting. And that was just me communicating that to Israel.
Incredible. What a scene. When you saw him knock him out seconds later, can you describe how you felt? Do you even remember how you felt?
Israel's talked about that happiness after the fight, and that I felt that was a special happiness that I've never felt before. Wow. Not a happiness that we hurt Pereira. I don't want people to get that confused. I don't wish any ill will on anybody, and in fact, I was a little bit concerned that Pereira might be hurt. Thankfully, he got up and he's okay. A happiness that we accomplished our goal, that me and the team and Israel had accomplished, something that we had set ourselves to do 3 previous times and hadn't been able to do. And that the joy and the happiness that it's like a blur. I turned around and I just hugged my coaching team, and we all hugged each other, and we were just yelling, and we were just enjoying the moment. We were like, hey, we've tried this 3 times, and finally we knew we could do this, and finally we've got him over the line. So just absolute happiness.
How did you feel about the post-fight celebrations?
Not my thing, but it's Israel's thing. And although it's something that I think I don't particularly advocate myself, I think when you win, I think you've beat the guy. That's the ultimate. The ultimate you can do to the guy is beat the guy. I don't particularly think you need to rub it in even more by doing back his thing that he likes to do. But that's Israel, and that's the sport. That's the entertainment part of the sport that I sometimes don't necessarily agree with. That's the sport, how it is. So it's not something that I would do or advocate, but that's the sport. That's how it is. It's something that I accept because that's just how it is.
We saw him in the cage. The post-fight interview, the speech, whatever you want to call it, was incredible. The press conference was fascinating in its own right. The celebration, very memorable. But I'm just wondering, and if you can't share, I obviously understand that as well. But like in the locker room, when no one's watching, knowing how much this meant to him, how much it meant to you and the team, what was that interaction like when you guys got to a somewhat quiet place and were able to kind of debrief what you had just accomplished?
Um, yeah, very. I would say at that point, and it's actually they immediately take you to the doctor area where you're isolated in the little tent. That's kind of the first moment that most fighters and trainers have together, where there's no one else around. And I would say the happiness that we felt when it happened and in the cage, but with the added, because you're by yourself, with the added feeling of relief. So you don't really get a chance to reflect on that in the cage because there's just too much going on. But when you get to an area where you're just by yourself, you have the happiness, but then you also have the weight off your shoulders. And that's a different feeling to the happiness. And you combine the two. So me and Israel, when we had that moment, we were together in the tent, just us two and the doctor. We hugged each other again, and you could just feel the happiness, but it was coincided with the relief, just like we're just hugging each other. And it's just a feeling of like weightlessness, if you know what I mean. Like finally we traveled the world fighting this guy and tried to beat him, and finally we've done it. Just it's like a weightlessness, like you're floating. Yeah,
I can't imagine. Who would you like to see him fight next?
Someone new, someone different. I don't want to fight these guys that we've already fought. There's nothing. We're in the sport to prove that we're the best, and when you beat someone 2-3 times, like you've proven that. So yeah, someone new. I don't know. It's a funny division when you've got such a dominant champion. Like that messes up the division a bit, right? If you agree. But look, what it does is it provides weird opportunities because, as you know, the sport must move on, the division must move on. We have to fight someone. So it will provide some weird opportunity for someone that people are least expecting to get a title shot. That's where these guys who haven't fought Israel, there's an opportunity there if they jump on it. And how you jump on it is you win the fights that you need to win, but there's also other means, like you create a bit of a storm in the social media and in the media, and there's an opportunity there for someone to grab. They just have to do it. We want to fight straight away. We'll fight in 8 weeks. There's an opportunity there. So someone needs to grab it.
So when you say straight away, I was hypothesizing, maybe he comes back in July, like Alex did last year, right? Alex fought in early April and he came back in July, Volkanovski, or, I feel like they might need to beef up the June pay-per-view. Like, are you talking about that quickly of a turnaround?
Yeah, we're good to go. Like, we want to fight straight away. Like, the leg kicks were good, but they weren't. Israel wasn't in a state where he's like limping. There's some bruising there, but it's not like he had a glory fight or against. It's not that. The damage is not that lasting where he won't be healed in like a week. Like as far as his health, and I think mentally, I think he just wants to go again. I've had to talk to him about this. So we want to dance. There's no clear dancing partner. There's an opportunity here for someone who perhaps is not the most expected person to get a title shot, but that's only because who else is there? At the end of the day, we need a dance partner.
So the only two people that fall into that bucket are Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis. Do you have a preference?
It would seem like Do I have a preference? I did. Look, no. Strickland would be a great fight because he brings a good fight. Strickland, I feel, also brings a lot of attention to a fight, so the business side of the sport would be very good with Strickland. Duplessis, I hope I got his name right. I don't know much about him. I actually did do a little bit of training at the same time he did many years ago while we were at Tiger. He seems like a nice guy. He seems like he's building a little bit of momentum, a little bit of a rivalry thing there he's building. So that could be good for the business side of the sport. In terms of like the style matchup, that doesn't really make it. That's the fascinating thing. I hope they have the fact that they're bringing a different style and something different to each other. That's the great part. That would be the challenge. That would be what we enjoy the most, me and Israel and the coaching team. So
do you have any concerns about this Africa talk from Drakkar and his coach and Izzy's comments and Kamaru's comments? Like, are you at all uncomfortable with any of this?
A little bit, yes. I think when we start pushing into the realm of politics, which I think sometimes you need to, but race politics, it's getting sketchy. It's getting real sketchy when you got when you've got a white South African telling Africans who were born, some of them were born in Africa, that they're not real Africans, then it's getting sketchy. But it's walking the line, and to promote a fight, the good promoters, the good fighters that promote fights, they walk the line, right? The Conor McGregors, even though Conor steps over it sometimes, but these people, they walk the line, and I think that's what Duplessis is trying to do. Whether he's going over the line is going to be left to the masses to decide.
Feels like we are getting dangerously close to that line. I just had him on, just full disclosure, right before you, and especially what his coach had to say. I it doesn't affect me whatsoever. I can't claim to be offended by it, but I can understand why Israel would be offended. I can understand why Kamaru would be offended, and it just feels like this is something that could get very uncomfortable leading up to a fight if it continues to ramp up.
You're correct. Like, I understand. I mean, it just depends where it goes, Ariel, right? It just depends on what direction it takes. I think perhaps now it's right on the line. It hasn't stepped over, but it's the very nature of it being right on the line. You could see that there's possibly something really ready to explode there. And whether that's good for the sport or good for Duplessis or good for Israel, I'm not sure. I'm not going to get into it that much, but no, I think I'll definitely be staying out of it. It's just it's just too much. Yeah, too much for me.
I can understand. Just a couple, and I'll let you go. Just curious, what would you say to someone who says, "Hey, you're 1-1 with Alex. He has the 2 wins in kickboxing. Why aren't we doing a rubber match here in MMA?"
I would say that, I would stick to my argument that I had before the fight, and that is that Alex, in my opinion, didn't deserve to get the title shot in the first place. I'm going to stick with that, and I just think that smart people, I don't see how smart people that follow the sport can see that any other way. The fight was built on a previous rivalry in a completely different sport. In a completely different sport, the fight was built on this story. And at the end of the day, the business of the sport took precedent because they knew the fight had a story and they knew it would sell a lot of pay-per-views. So that kind of took precedent, and that's fine. That's how the sport works sometimes. Sometimes the business takes precedent over the integrity of the sport. But now he has to go back and do what the Anderson Silvas did to get to the title shot, the Israel Adesanya did to the title shot, the George St. Pierre did at welterweight to become a great champion, what Michael Bisping did, his tenure in the UFC, to get his title shot. You can't just fight 3 people that they put in front of you, let's be honest, to beat. So you could have relatively safe fights against, so that you could fast track you to Israel. I understand how that all happened. Do I think it was like ethically the right thing to do? No. But I also understand how the business works, so I'm fine with it. But don't do that again. Like, this is the most prestigious title in the sport. Don't let business be the overarching factor on everything. Don't let it take over the prestige of the title, because there's money to be made or something else. Let's let Alex become a UFC fighter. Let's let him go through the gauntlet of guys that Israel had to go through to get his next title shot. And he's perfectly willing to do that. He's one of the best fighters in the world. But he got frustrated to the title, and I just think he should go and ingratiate himself to the sport and do the yards.
You always tell it like it is, Coach. Thank you for doing so once again. I appreciate it very much. Congratulations to you, to the team, to Israel on what you guys accomplished. Incredible stuff. And I can't say it enough. I really do appreciate just the insight that you bring, the authenticity, the honesty. It is really such a pleasure to have you on each and every time you come on. So thank you for the time, especially early in the morning over there. Enjoy the victory. And perhaps we'll see you guys again in action in June or July. That would be tremendous. I hope we get to, selfishly. So thank you so much, Coach.
Absolutely. Thank you, Arif. Thank you once again for your support.
You're the man. There he is, the one and only Coach Eugene Bareman of City Kickboxing.